Human beings are often unaware of the subtle impact they have on those around them. Every action, every word, even every silence can resonate in the psyche of another person far more deeply than we realize. When someone is struggling more because of you, it is rarely about deliberate harm. It is about unconscious influence and projection. We carry within us layers of unresolved tension, fears, and desires that can be triggered by the presence of another. What may feel ordinary or insignificant to you can awaken dormant pain or insecurity in someone else. This is not a moral indictment, but an invitation to greater self-awareness. The way you engage, the way you communicate, and even the way you appear emotionally present or absent all contribute to a complex interplay of influence. To recognize this is to acknowledge that human relationships are never neutral. They are psychological events that ripple through consciousness, often in ways unseen. The challenge is that the person feeling this impact may not even have fully articulated their struggle, yet their internal experience is real, palpable, and often overwhelming. You may walk through life assuming your presence is benign, yet for someone sensitive to these subtle dynamics, your presence can amplify inner conflicts, evoke fear, or stir longing that has no immediate resolution. This requires a deep reflection on how you affect others, not to burden yourself with guilt, but to cultivate awareness of the weight of your influence, the power of your presence, and the responsibility that comes with being a conscious human being in the world. When another person experiences you more intensely than you experience them, it reveals the asymmetry in perception that exists in most human interactions. Some individuals are highly attuned to the emotional and psychological signals of others, sensing nuances in tone, gesture, and expression that go unnoticed by the majority. This heightened sensitivity means that your words and actions, intentional or not, are filtered through a lens of profound emotional significance. It is as if your presence becomes a mirror, reflecting back to them aspects of themselves they are struggling to integrate. The intensity of their experience is not always obvious to you, and it may lead to misunderstandings or unspoken tension. This dynamic demonstrates that human interaction is not merely a matter of shared external events, but an engagement with the inner world of consciousness. Each encounter has the potential to awaken hidden wounds or illuminate unseen strengths. The realization that someone can feel you more deeply than you feel them encourages mindfulness and intentionality, prompting a careful consideration of how one navigates presence, communication, and empathy in daily life. It also asks that you develop a compassionate recognition that the inner experience of another is a private and sacred space, one that is shaped as much by their inner world as by your own actions and presence. The ability to hold awareness of this dynamic is an essential aspect of mature relational consciousness, demanding sensitivity, reflection, and patience as we move through the subtle complexities of human connection. The unconscious mind plays a profound role in shaping how struggles manifest in those around us. Most human suffering is not expressed directly through words, but rather through tension, withdrawal, or reactive behavior that signals inner turmoil. When someone is struggling more because of you, it is often because your presence has unknowingly interacted with their unconscious complexes. These complexes, formed from past experiences, disappointments, and unmet needs, can be triggered by subtle cues in your actions, tone, or even your silence. It is important to recognize that what you perceive as neutral or ordinary may carry significant emotional weight for another person. This is not a judgment on your character, but a reflection of the intricate web of human psychology. Every interaction is laden with potential resonance, echoing within the hidden chambers of another person's psyche. The awareness of this dynamic calls for humility and careful observation, inviting a recognition that our influence on others extends beyond what is visible or spoken. We become participants in a dance of consciousness, where even small gestures can ripple into deep emotional responses. Understanding this allows one to navigate relationships with greater intentionality, fostering an environment where awareness mitigates unintended harm while respecting the depth of another person's inner experience. Recognizing that unconscious processes shape perception is essential, as it emphasizes that our presence in someone else's life can either magnify suffering or support integration and growth. It challenges us to act consciously, to listen deeply, and to remain mindful of the invisible currents of influence that flow through human interaction, urging a commitment to self-awareness and empathetic engagement in all relationships. Empathy, when understood as a profound connection with another person's inner life, becomes both a responsibility and a skill. The fact that someone feels you more deeply than you feel them highlights the asymmetry inherent in human relational dynamics. Sensitivity to emotional nuance, the ability to perceive unspoken feelings, and the capacity to absorb subtle psychological signals are traits that make a person acutely aware of your impact. These experiences may intensify their struggle, particularly if unresolved inner conflicts are activated by your presence. What may seem inconsequential to you, a fleeting comment, a delayed response, or a lack of acknowledgement, can resonate in profound ways, shaping their emotional state for hours or even days. This understanding does not demand perfection or guilt, but it calls for a heightened sense of awareness, for every interaction is an opportunity to either exacerbate or alleviate psychological tension. Recognizing this dynamic allows for conscious modulation of presence, speech, and attention, cultivating a relational environment where sensitivity is met with care and intention. It invites reflection on the nature of influence, how our emotions, actions, and even absences interact with the inner landscapes of others, prompting a careful consideration of the ripple effects we create. In acknowledging the depth of another's perception, we are called to cultivate patience, mindfulness, and ethical attention to the unspoken, invisible realms of human connection, allowing the relationship to be a space of both awareness and potential healing. Human relationships are deeply intertwined with perception, projection, and emotional resonance. When a person struggles more because of you, it is often a reflection of the complex ways your presence interacts with their inner world. People do not exist in isolation. Their consciousness is shaped by past experiences, fears, and unmet needs, which color every encounter. Your behavior, whether conscious or unconscious, can activate these hidden aspects, bringing latent suffering to the surface. Even gestures of kindness or neutrality can have unintended consequences if they touch sensitive areas of another's psyche. This dynamic illustrates the profound responsibility inherent in human interaction. We are not only participants in the external exchange of words and actions, but also in the invisible psychological currents that flow beneath the surface. By cultivating awareness of the impact we have, we learn to navigate relationships more mindfully. Awareness does not imply guilt, but invites reflection on how subtle expressions, tones, or omissions shape the emotional landscape of others. Recognizing that our presence can amplify or alleviate inner struggle emphasizes the importance of empathy, patience, and self-examination. Each encounter is an opportunity to witness the unconscious patterns in ourselves and others, fostering a more conscious approach to relational dynamics. Through attentive observation and compassionate consideration, we honor the depth of human experience, understanding that our influence extends far beyond what we immediately perceive, touching the very architecture of another person's inner life in ways both subtle and profound. The intensity with which another person feels you often exceeds your own awareness of them. This asymmetry is a natural consequence of differing levels of emotional attunement and psychological sensitivity. Some individuals are deeply perceptive, capable of sensing subtle cues in facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language that may go unnoticed by others. These perceptive qualities amplify the emotional resonance of interactions, making your presence more impactful than you realize. What may appear as an inconsequential remark or a fleeting action can echo deeply, stirring fears, insecurities, or unresolved tensions that have long existed beneath the surface. This heightened perception is not inherently negative. It reflects the complexity of relational consciousness and the layered nature of human experience. However, it underscores the necessity of mindful engagement, for the influence we exert is rarely neutral. Understanding this dynamic encourages deliberate attentiveness to how our actions, words, and emotional states affect others. It invites reflection on the ethical and psychological responsibilities of being present in another person's life, urging us to cultivate compassion, discernment, and emotional clarity. By recognizing the depth of another's perception, we can modulate our presence with intentionality, creating space for connection, understanding, and the potential for alleviating struggle rather than exacerbating it. This insight reveals that human interaction is not only an exchange of observable behaviors, but also an interplay of inner worlds, where conscious attention and thoughtful awareness can profoundly shape the experience of others. Human consciousness is not isolated. It exists in constant dialogue with the consciousness of others. When someone struggles more because of you, it is often the result of subtle, unperceived interactions that awaken hidden tensions within their psyche. Every presence carries energy, emotional, mental, and sometimes even spiritual, that can resonate profoundly with another person. What you consider minor or insignificant may reverberate like a bell in the inner world of someone sensitive, touching unresolved fears, insecurities, or past wounds. This phenomenon illustrates that our influence extends beyond the tangible and visible. It moves through the unseen structures of thought, emotion, and unconscious patterns. Recognizing this calls for an attentive awareness of how you inhabit space, how you speak, and how your emotional state radiates into your surroundings. It is a reminder that human connections are not neutral exchanges, but psychological and emotional ecosystems where the smallest act can either nurture or strain the inner life of another. By cultivating mindfulness, one begins to understand the profound responsibility inherent in interpersonal engagement and how our very being, even when silent, can be a source of comfort or struggle. Awareness does not necessitate blame, but it encourages self-reflection, introspection, and the cultivation of intentionality in the ways we relate to others, offering the potential to ease the burdens that our presence may inadvertently amplify. Emotional depth and sensitivity vary greatly among individuals, which explains why one person may feel another's presence more intensely than the other realizes. Highly attuned individuals perceive subtleties, facial expressions, micro-gestures, tone fluctuations that often pass unnoticed. Their inner world is receptive to external stimuli in a way that magnifies both positive and negative encounters. When your presence triggers struggle, it is rarely a reflection of conscious intent, but a mirror of their heightened perception intersecting with your actions. Understanding this encourages compassion for both yourself and the person experiencing intensified emotion. It requires a recognition that the psyche is a layered construct. Conscious thought, unconscious drives, and deeply held beliefs all interact in complex ways to shape perception. By becoming aware of the asymmetry in emotional perception, one can approach relationships with greater care, recognizing that even unintentional actions carry weight. Mindfulness in this context is not merely self-discipline, but an ethical and psychological tool allowing for intentional modulation of presence, words, and gestures to support rather than exacerbate emotional strain. Through reflective awareness, we can cultivate connections that honor the depth of human experience, acknowledging the unseen reverberations of our existence in the inner worlds of those we touch. The responsibility to perceive, consider, and navigate these subtleties is an essential aspect of mature relational consciousness, inviting intentionality, empathy, and understanding into every human interaction. The interplay between presence and perception is central to understanding why someone may struggle more because of you. Human beings are not merely affected by overt actions, they respond to subtle signals: tone, expression, energy, and even absence. These signals interact with personal histories, unresolved fears, and internal conflicts, creating emotional responses that may appear disproportionate but are entirely real to the individual experiencing them. What you might perceive as a neutral or ordinary behavior can awaken latent anxieties, magnifying emotional tension in ways that are often invisible to you. Recognizing this dynamic requires an openness to the unseen effects of your existence in someone else's inner world. It is a call to consciousness, to see relationships not as simple exchanges of words or gestures, but as encounters with profound psychological and emotional dimensions. By understanding that your presence can either ease or amplify struggle, you are invited to cultivate empathy and intentionality in every interaction. This does not imply blame or guilt. Rather, it is an acknowledgement of the interwoven nature of human experience. Mindful awareness of how your actions resonate allows for the possibility of creating a more compassionate space, one in which your presence contributes to understanding, healing, and emotional balance, rather than inadvertently intensifying the hidden burdens of another's psyche. It reminds us that influence is not always conscious, and that sensitivity to this reality is an essential aspect of mature relational awareness. Every interaction carries the potential for unconscious projection, a phenomenon where individuals attribute aspects of their inner world onto others. When someone feels you more deeply than you feel them, it is often because their consciousness is actively engaging with parts of themselves mirrored in your presence. These projections are not necessarily accurate reflections of your intent, but serve as windows into their internal struggles, unresolved conflicts, and emotional patterns. Heightened perception can amplify small gestures, tones, or expressions, transforming them into powerful catalysts for reflection, emotional response, or suffering. This dynamic underscores the importance of self-awareness and intentional presence in human relationships. By cultivating attentiveness to how your actions, words, and even silences are received, you participate consciously in the emotional ecology of another person. Awareness allows you to moderate your influence, to recognize when your presence may unintentionally trigger unresolved pain, and to navigate these moments with compassion. Understanding that another person's intense perception is both a reflection of their sensitivity and a mirror of your influence encourages thoughtful engagement and ethical responsibility. This perspective does not require perfection, but invites reflection, patience, and humility, emphasizing that the responsibility of being present is as much about conscious awareness as it is about the act of existing alongside another human being. By embracing this awareness, you can foster interactions that honor the depth and complexity of human experience while minimizing unintentional strain, creating a relational environment that supports rather than complicates the inner lives of those you encounter. Human connection is inherently intertwined with vulnerability. When someone struggles more because of you, it often reflects the delicate interplay between your actions and their emotional landscape. Human beings are shaped not only by external events, but also by the internal meanings they attach to those events. A single word, gesture, or look can awaken buried fears, insecurities, or long-held expectations, magnifying emotional strain in ways that are invisible to the outside observer. The unconscious mind filters experiences through a complex web of personal history, past trauma, and unresolved conflicts, causing reactions that may appear disproportionate but are deeply felt. Recognizing this requires an awareness that your presence carries weight beyond conscious intention. You may believe your actions are neutral or supportive, yet for someone sensitive, they can resonate with unexpected intensity, stirring latent struggles or amplifying existing tension. This insight encourages a mindful approach to interaction, emphasizing reflection, empathy, and ethical responsibility. Every relationship is a psychological ecosystem, where each participant's behavior affects the other's inner equilibrium. By cultivating awareness of the subtleties of influence, you can act in ways that honor the depth of another's experience. This awareness does not suggest blame but invites a conscious engagement with the unseen consequences of our presence, fostering understanding, compassion, and care in human connection. Through this lens, relational dynamics are seen as an intricate balance of intention, perception, and emotional resonance. And understanding this balance empowers one to navigate human interaction with wisdom and sensitivity, supporting emotional well-being rather than inadvertently contributing to struggle. The perception of intensity in human relationships varies greatly. When someone experiences you more deeply than you experience them, it reflects differences in sensitivity, awareness, and emotional receptivity. Highly attuned individuals notice subtle cues in behavior, expression, and tone, perceiving nuances that may go unnoticed by others. Their heightened perception can transform ordinary interactions into profound experiences, where your presence triggers deep reflection, emotional response, or inner tension. This dynamic highlights the asymmetry inherent in human relationships. The way one person experiences another is filtered through the lens of their unique psychological and emotional framework. Understanding this asymmetry fosters empathy and encourages mindful engagement. It emphasizes that influence is rarely neutral and that even unintentional actions can carry significant psychological weight. By cultivating awareness of these interactions, one can navigate relationships with intentionality, adjusting presence, speech, and action to respect the inner world of others. This perspective acknowledges the complexity of human consciousness and the ethical responsibility that comes with interacting in ways that affect others profoundly. By observing, reflecting, and responding with care, we can create relational spaces that honor sensitivity and encourage healing, insight, and balance in the human experience. Every human interaction carries the potential to awaken both conscious and unconscious responses. When someone is struggling more because of you, it is often not about deliberate harm, but about the way your presence interacts with the unseen layers of their psyche. Human beings carry patterns, complexes, and emotional histories that shape perception in subtle yet profound ways. A casual remark, a moment of silence, or a gesture meant as neutral can resonate with hidden fears or long-standing insecurities, intensifying internal struggle. This dynamic reminds us that relationships are not only exchanges of observable behaviors, but also dialogues between inner worlds. Awareness of this truth invites a more mindful approach to our presence, words, and actions. We begin to recognize that influence is rarely neutral. Our emotional and psychological states ripple outward, touching others in ways that may not be immediately visible. By observing the effects of our presence with empathy and reflection, we create the possibility for conscious engagement rather than unintentional harm. This awareness is not about assuming blame for another's sensitivity, but about cultivating responsibility for how our interactions may intersect with the inner lives of others. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for reflection, conscious adjustment, and ethical engagement, reinforcing the depth and complexity of human connection and the responsibility inherent in shared psychological space. The intensity with which another person experiences you often surpasses your own awareness, revealing the asymmetrical nature of perception. Some individuals are highly sensitive to emotional and psychological signals, capable of detecting subtle shifts in tone, expression, or energy that may go unnoticed by others. Their heightened awareness can amplify the effect of your presence, creating experiences that feel profound, disorienting, or even overwhelming. This asymmetry is not a measure of fault, but a reflection of the variation in human perceptual capacities. Recognizing this dynamic encourages deliberate mindfulness in interactions, highlighting the importance of intentionality and attentiveness in the way one engages with others. Even ordinary behaviors may carry disproportionate emotional resonance for those with heightened sensitivity, emphasizing the need for reflection, compassion, and ethical awareness. By understanding that your presence can evoke deep responses, you gain the capacity to navigate relationships with intentionality, ensuring that interactions support rather than exacerbate struggle. This perspective fosters the cultivation of relational intelligence, an awareness that considers both the visible and hidden dimensions of human interaction. It reminds us that the way we inhabit space, speak, and express ourselves has a ripple effect that may be experienced far more intensely than we realize, encouraging thoughtful engagement, empathy, and conscious presence in all relationships. The depth of human sensitivity underscores why someone may struggle more because of you, even when your intentions are neutral. Every interaction is filtered through the unique emotional and psychological framework of the other person, shaped by past experiences, unresolved conflicts, and unconscious patterns. When your presence resonates with these inner layers, it can stir feelings of vulnerability, tension, or longing that are not always visible externally. This does not imply that you are responsible for their inner struggles in a moralistic sense, but it highlights the profound impact of awareness, or the lack thereof, on relational dynamics. Recognizing that your behavior can unintentionally influence someone's inner life invites a conscious approach to presence, speech, and action. By cultivating mindfulness and empathy, you create space for others to process their emotions safely and without amplification of internal conflict. This involves careful attention to tone, gesture, and even silences, understanding that these subtle elements communicate meaning beyond words. The ethical responsibility inherent in human connection is not about perfection, but about conscious participation in the emotional and psychological ecosystems of those around us. Being aware of the ripple effect your presence may create allows you to approach relationships with intentionality, reducing the potential for harm while supporting growth, reflection, and emotional balance. It is a call to conscious engagement with the inner lives of others, honoring their sensitivity and recognizing the unseen weight your actions may carry. The phenomenon of another person feeling you more deeply than you feel them reflects the asymmetrical nature of emotional perception. Some individuals have heightened attunement to the subtleties of human behavior, sensing fluctuations in expression, tone, and energy that others may overlook. This heightened perception can amplify the emotional significance of ordinary interactions, making your presence a potent factor in their inner experience. The intensity of their response is a mirror of both their sensitivity and the influence of your presence, revealing the interconnectedness of consciousness in human relationships. Awareness of this dynamic encourages reflection and deliberate engagement. It emphasizes that even unintentional actions can carry profound consequences, shaping the inner emotional landscape of another person. By approaching interactions with empathy, attention, and care, you acknowledge both the depth of human perception and the responsibility inherent in being a conscious participant in someone else's emotional life. This perspective fosters relational intelligence where presence, words, and gestures are infused with awareness, reducing unintentional strain and creating space for understanding, insight, and connection. Recognizing that influence extends beyond visible actions empowers you to navigate relationships thoughtfully, with compassion for the unseen and profound dimensions of human experience. In doing so, you honor the depth of sensitivity in others and cultivate interactions that support rather than exacerbate struggle, fostering meaningful and mindful connection.